Namaste, and welcome to this Asana Video Manual. My name is Ki McGraw.
And my name is Bob Smith.
And we are thrilled to bring to you this particular video series that's based on our Asana Photo Manual. Enjoy. Namaste, and welcome back to this Asana Video Manual. In today's focus, we will be taking our way onto the floor for some particular stretching that can be done anywhere you've got a nice, clean, flat space.
We'll begin with a standing flow. Ki will be the voice.
As we do, take your legs a leg distance apart. Hinging at the hips, begin to fold forward, long and neutral through the spine. Just one more breath here. Now, as you're able, take your left hand down to the ground, lift up through the head and the chest, and turn and look to your right in this beginning style rotated triangle. The right hand can come back behind you to your sacrum, buttock, or to that left thigh the hard way. And lifting through the head and the chest, turn and look all the way to the right. And one more breath here. Now, as you release from the posture, come back through center, and continuing with this gentle warm-up for what is about to follow. With the right hand down to the ground, between the line of the toes, lift up through the head and the chest, and begin to turn and look to the left. Left hand will come back behind you onto the sacrum, buttock, or to that right thigh the hard way. So lift the head and lift the chest as you turn and look to the left. And one more breath here. As you release from the posture, come back through center, and give yourself just a little bit of organic movement here, bending knees and elbows so you can shift through hips and shoulder sockets. And one more breath. As we release, draw your way back up to neutral. As we continue on with this sequence, if you find that the rotated triangle is a challenge for you, you might resume that beginning style variation. As you're able from here, rotate open your right leg to the right, beginning in Uddiyana Trikonasana. Hinging in the right hip, direct both sides of the pelvis towards that left heel. Arm variations at your discretion. Without using the arms, you're strengthening through the core of the body. When you use the arms, you have a little bit more support into which you may be able to stretch more completely. And one more breath here. As you release, lunge into your right knee and slide your left leg back a bit in Uddiyana Trikonasana. Similarly with the pelvis, adjusting it towards the left heel. Armless variation for that deeper core strengthening. We're using arms to help to support the core as you focus in the stretch. And one more breath here. Now, as you release from the position, pivot and turn to the right. Picking up your left leg, draw it in a little closer to the right, and straightening through your right knee without locking it back. You'll start to feel the hamstring stretch of the pyramid posture, maintaining the spine with its long neutral alignment. And then from this foundation, we'll take the rotation to the right. With the left hand anywhere along the right leg, you can lift and turn and look to the right. If it's not working for you, you can simply turn your way back to squared forward, for that rotated triangle we practiced in the beginning style already. One more breath here. And when you release from the posture, untwist, and lunging into the right knee, slide your left leg back. With the left heel wrapping in slightly, engaging through the left side of the core of the hip. Cross your left elbow over right thigh. And prayer position to lift as you turn and look to the right in your rotated extended side angle. Parshvakonasana. One more breath. And as you release from the posture, untwist. And take your way back to your forward restful position. And give yourself some room for those organic movements yet again.
And then we'll come up and we'll do the second side, same sequence. Turn your left foot open and fold the hip joint into triangle. The whole pelvis shifts towards the outer right foot. Left hand onto the shin or any other arm position that works for you. And then 2 more breaths, inhale. And you might complete the arm position with a vertical right arm lift or over the ear with the right arm lift. 1 more breath, inhale. And exhale and spread through the triangle, opening that right side. and then back out a little bit, bend the left knee, widen slightly, push off the left quadricep, and then likely down with the hand, or you could develop another arm position. But the classic position is down to the inner ankle, both hips opening, and then that right arm reaches through, the whole right side of the body opens. 2 more breaths. Inhale, breathe slowly. Ujjayi inhale. And exhale and roll back right as you open both hips. 1 more. Inhale, steady, slow in. And exhale and open the right side, turning back right. The hip, the scapula, and then release. And come out into the pyramid, which is going to turn into the rotated triangle. So be in pyramid for a breath or 2 more, opening the left hamstring. And 1 more. And then rotated triangle, or back to that earlier version that we started with. So either of the two. Ki showing the rotated triangle, and I'm showing the easier version. On the exhale, you're turning your ribs towards the left, stabilizing through both legs. And 1 more breath, inhale. And exhale and turn back left, opening the hamstring, or both hamstrings. And release, and then we'll come out. From here, you're going to widen your leg base and bring your right knee down. And then come across. The Ki is showing the back leg hooked under, either the position I'm at or the one she's in. Exhale, spread between the back leg and the torso, the ribs turning to the left. And 1 more breath, inhale. And exhale, swish the energy through, reach it through. And then release and come back to standing. And any small movements that feel good. And so from the standing positions, we're going to take it on the ground. And so come down. And it's going to be child's pose, prayer position, and some stretching out of prayer position. So young children sometimes fall asleep in this position, sitting on the feet and the arms back. That's what distinguishes it from prayer position, arms back in child's pose. And it's a relaxing pose. Feel, if you were relaxed enough, you could almost fall asleep in this position. Maybe not as adults, but feel the goodness of the pose, just the low back stretching, make sure your knees are okay with it. And then simply, the arms forward becomes the prayer. And so just reach through, it's a low back stretch, it's an easy shoulder stretch. Mainly just allowing the low back to ease out, to stretch out in prayer, and certainly the name of the pose speaks for itself. We're always better when we pray. And then from here we're going to just shift the hands, and we'll walk the hands over to the left. And so in particular it's going to be a right low back stretch, both arms reaching out to the left. And just allow the easy, gentle opening through that right low rib cage and right on through the whole right arm and whole right side of the body, stretching, and the head likely slightly up, or it could be down, but the neck tends to go too far down. 1 more breath, reach, and come out. Very simple poses. Second side, we'll walk the hands over to the right, stretching the left side, the left low back, and that left arm. The head could also rest on the arm or just slightly up. And 1 more breath. Just allow the low back to stretch out in this easy stretching position. And then we'll come out, and This is hare pose coming up next. Hare, like a rabbit, H-A-R-E. It's a neck stretch. It looks like Ki starting from the prayer position. The forehead comes down, and then you're going to lift the hips up off the feet, and you're going to roll like you're going to do a somersault, which you're not going to do. You walk your hands in, and then you walk the knees in, and with the hands down you have complete control over the stretch of the neck. Be careful, you can overstretch the neck in this position, so just ease into the stretch, your hips rock over a little, the hands still pressed down. Now from here, with the knees walking in a little bit more, the next position of hair would be to interweave the fingers and take the arms up, and that's when the arms coming up are like a rabbit ear, like the ears coming up. And you see with Ki, it's a deep neck stretch. The knees are very close to the forehead, and the reaching over and through. This is a good hair day, not a bad hair day. And then we'll come on out and just relax a little bit, and Ki will be the voice for the next sequence.
Now from here, as you're able, come on back and onto your belly. As you do so, we're going to work through one side of the low back at a time, making sure that all is well. Once you're lying down on your belly, you might shift your hips just a little side to side. And you could be up on your forearms or not. Allow yourself to be comfortable and work at your own ability. From here, I want you to lift your left knee and open it to the left side. In doing so, your tail is going to lift up and then release back down. Just a tiny nod of the tailbone lifting and then releasing. And one more time like this, lifting and then releasing. Let's see if you can lift the tail and sustain that without any problem through either side of the low back or the sacral iliac joint. And one more breath here. As you release from the posture, straighten that left leg back out, shift the hips just a little bit side to side, and let's see how we do on the other side of this half frog position, or Ardha Bikasan. Doing so, lift your right knee, open it to the right side. And once you do, again, you can stay up on the forearms if that works for you. From here, with the tail lifting and then releasing, we're finding our way to move the sacrum within the pelvis. Tailbone lifts and then releases back down. And one more time like this, consciously lifting the tail and then releasing. Now from here, lift the tailbone up and sustain that. In doing so, make sure that there's no ill effects in the low back or sacral iliac joints. In fact, often this helps to release and relieve some of the tension in those areas. One more breath. When you come out of the posture, stretch your right leg back behind you and just shift your hips a little bit side to side again. As we take it to both sides working at once, it's a more complete frog position. In doing so, you can press your way up and open the knees to the sides of the hips. With the pubic bone right between the line of the knees, gradually allow yourself to deepen in this inner thigh stretch and breathing as you're reaching through. And one more breath here. I'm loving Bob's neutral lumbar curve, and as such, we're going to develop that a little bit more completely as we extend into a cobra out of this frog base. Now with the hands underneath the shoulders, press through strong arms to lift the head and the chest and to draw it forward. With it, we're still lifting the tailbone out and back behind you, deepening the sensation of stretching through the inner thighs and strengthening through the upper body. And one more breath. Now as you release from the posture, come on back into the knees back together, and either that child's posture or the prayer position as you like it. Doing so gives you a chance just to collect your energy and to feel the subtle but profound changes that occur with each one of these particular small asana flows. From here, as we start to shift, Bob's going to take us into yet a different frog variation, as well as some other good work in a reclined hero.
We'll come on to our belly, and we'll take the knees, bend the knees, and bring one foot in, release the right leg back, and we'll bring the left foot in. You're going to take the hand on top of the foot and attempt to bring the foot down. It's just an easy quadricep stretch, although it's hard to get the leverage for some. And then one more, and so the leg is a little bit like a frog leg. It's kind of loose. Okay, and then second side. You'll bend the right leg, the left leg will straighten, and so the foot comes in by the buttock or to the side of the buttock. Ideally you get up on top of it with the elbow, and then you're pushing the foot down. It's a foot stretch too, the top of the foot is the stretching. And one more breath, this half frog. And then release, and we'll try both. So both knees bend, and you're going to, ideally you at first bring the heels of the feet in by the buttock, and then you raise up and push down, and so feel the quadricep stretching. And one more, push through and release, and then from there we're going to swing back and come on to our back. As we come onto our back, let's fold the left leg in. Now you could sit on a pillow. If it's too much on the knee, certainly we don't press into the knee. So you could have your buttock up on a pillow and then lean back, and the pillow would go all along your back. Or maybe the quadricep is okay with it and the knee's okay with it, and so you lean back, and fairly deep quadricep stretch. You have to be careful with the knee, make sure it's not hurting the knee. This can be a restful position. And then possibly from there one leg could come up, the right leg could come up, and this is a quadricep stretch and a hamstring stretch. The left knee is likely to come up. You probably have a strap. It's a difficult position if the quads are tight and the hamstrings are tight, but one more breath here. And then release, and we'll roll to the right, and then take your left foot out, and then bring your right foot in by the buttock. You're trying to settle the low back so that right hip opens slightly, and the pelvis swings down. And one more breath. Again, just make sure the knee's okay with it. And then possibly that left leg comes up, and certainly a strap or behind the hamstring. A couple breaths. And one more, and so the right knee comes up a little, possibly, then you're trying to work it back towards the floor. And then release that. Now we'll roll out, and we're going to try both. So roll out enough so you can get the 2 feet to the sides of the buttock. For a few people, this is a very relaxing position. And the Asana Thunderbolt. I've known people to fall asleep in this position. Now, for most of you, it's a pretty intense quadricep stretch. You're trying to settle the low back, so it's a bit of a tucking of the pelvis down under. And then you could take your arms up and over. And each exhale, just trying to lengthen a little bit through, even though it's fairly passive. And a couple more breaths. This could, if it feels good, could be held for quite a while. One more. I like this position to recreate the lumbar curve that's lost from sitting a lot. And so this helps my low back get a gentle arch and recreate that low lumbar curve, which feels good to my back. Okay, and so we'll finish, and you'll roll off to the side that's easiest to roll out of, to come out of the pose. And then we're going to go into reclined lotus. Most Westerners don't have a lotus position. But here we show it. We're trying to show most of the postures. So if you have the lotus, you take one foot in, and then the other one up and across. And then you'd release, once you get the lotus positioning, then you'd release the legs down, and that's slow. And of course, if the knees are not willing to do the lotus, don't. And you can see that with Ki, it actually turns into the fish pose. So that's one way to go with it. Or you can just stay and just let your hips and legs ease out. Okay, and then we'll come out.
Next, we're going to take it into Anatasana. As you're on your back, you can hug your knees back into the chest, and with the knees hugging into the chest, you have a chance to relieve a little bit of wind. And with the knees hugging in, you're stretching through the low back, and you could keep just the right leg in, and as Bob's able, he can stretch that left leg out. So just focusing on that right side, making sure that that right knee's okay, and with it you might circle in the right hip a little bit. And then when you're able, just release it to your other side. With the left knee hugging into the chest, you can circle through that left hip, mostly making sure that the knees are good from the efforts you've just made. And from here again, draw both knees into the chest. And breathing as you're reaching through in this wind relieving posture. And one more breath here. Next, we're going to shift into a sequence that we affectionately like to refer to as Around the World. I'm adding in one other particular stop in our trip today, and as such, we'll be moving through a collection of positions on our back. Now, towards this work, you might use a strap in case you're needing a little support for hamstrings and inner thigh flexibility. As such, allow yourself to gather that strap too if you need it. And when you're on your back, we'll take the right leg up towards the ceiling. A whole lot easier without having to also stretch that left quad. And as such, you might feel the greater release as you're stretching through the right hamstring in this posture of Supta Hasta Padangusthasana, or the reclined hand-to-foot posture. But truly, if instead for you it's the hand to the strap, or the hand to the calf, or knee, or even the thigh, all is welcome, still keeping the pelvis firmly grounded. And one more breath here. Now as we release from the posture, let's open the right leg to the right, and in doing so, this is Supta Parshva Hasta Padangusthasana, so keeping both sides of the pelvis down onto the ground as we're stretching through the inner right thigh, and breathing as you're reaching through. Now this same position in just a moment we will be practicing while we are, I'll say, standing on our left hip. As such, one more breath here. Now as you release from the pose, allow yourself to roll over onto your outer left hip. And you might use your left hand underneath the head to help you stand through that outer left hip. With it as you're able, you can reach the right arm up, holding onto the right foot in this posture of Anatasana, the reclined pose of Shiva when he is laying out in his couch. Over time, this might vary to the extent that the left hand holds onto the right foot, and right elbow can press, right knee back, deepening that stretch. One more breath here. As you release, now stay standing on your left outer hip, and as you do, allow that right leg to cross all the way over to the left. Now lengthening through the spine, turn and look back to the right. And this is the Supta Prasarita Hasta Padangusthasana, or the reclined, rotated hand-to-foot posture. And several of you might choose to stay just there, releasing through the low back, even as others of us consider shifting into the half splits posture, or even a full splits. In doing so, you'd continue rolling in that direction with your right leg crossing over to the left. If you're coming with me up onto the left knee, then that right leg can start to inch its way forward. And keeping both sides of the pelvis evenly squared as you slowly move towards Hanumanasana, or the splits pose. With both hips evenly squared, you might use your left foot behind you to press the pelvis forward, keeping yourself vertical, Head and eye gaze upward develops it into a deeper quad stretch. Bob's forward bend variation takes it into the deeper hamstring stretch. And one more breath here. And when you release from the posture, come on back out and onto your back. Once you're on your back, you might do well to come into a wind relieving posture yet again, with both knees or just the one knee in. Doing so gives us a chance to catch our breath and to make sure that the spine is feeling good about the work we're doing. And as such, one more breath here. As we begin to develop on this side, right foot can come down to the ground and the left leg comes up to the ceiling. Again, you're totally welcome to be using a strap to accommodate tension in your left hamstring group. What I don't want you to do is to press through the right leg and to lift the pelvis up like this. Instead, keep the pelvis completely on the ground. And in doing so, stretching through the right leg down on the ground will help to anchor the pelvis downward. And one more breath here. Now, as you release from the posture, use your left hand on the inner left leg to open the left leg to the left. In doing so, still keep the right hip well grounded, breathing as you're reaching through. The tendency otherwise when we're tight in that inner left thigh is to start to collapse into the left leg and lifting the right hip, instead keeping it well grounded. And one more breath here. In keeping this shape as we start to shift over onto your outer right hip. Maybe using the right hand underneath your head and left hand to the inside of that left leg. And breathing as you're reaching through, still stretching through inner left thigh and also working through the core of the body. Over time, that right hand might switch up to the left foot and left elbow can press the left knee back. And one more breath here. Now as you release, let that left leg cross over to the right and still stay standing on the outer right hip. This is the Supta Prasarita Hasta Padangusthasana, or the reclined rotated hand to foot posture. And as such, many of you would choose to stay right here, even as we consider progressing into half split and maybe all the way to the splits pose. In doing so, shift, continuing to the left and bending your left knee. Keep the right knee on the ground and press the pelvis forward. From here, gradually developing, inching your way forward with the left leg. With the pelvis evenly squared, breathing as you're reaching through, maybe using right foot to hook under so that I'm still pressing my right hip forward. Otherwise, the tendency is for it to fly back. And staying upward as I am helps to deepen the stretch through the right quad and right psoas, even as Bob's forward bend helps him to stretch through that left hamstring group. And one more breath here. Now when you release from the posture, let yourself come on back out of it and onto your back. And then we'll shift into that happy baby posture that you want to come into, Bob.
And so come on to our back, and we did the child's pose earlier, and this is maybe same age or a younger baby. Yes, and so the feet come up and you rock a little bit, and kids can take their foot to their mouth, and at the parents' disgruntlement. So it's a hip opener. You bring your feet in towards the face, and maybe you could suck your big toe or bite it. And so, like a baby, you're just kind of rolling around. You haven't developed your mind yet as a baby, and so all is well just in the body or exploring the body, the tremendous urge to figure the body out. And so the child moves, and the happy baby is usually happy in this position. Okay. And then from there, we're going to do both legs outstretched. And you could have two straps, or just hold the inner knees or the inner calves, and then you're going to open the inner thighs. You keep your low back on the ground, so don't rear up with the pelvis like this. It's not good for the low back. So you go as far as you can with the legs in an easy manner, and then you just slowly outstretch the inner thighs and the hamstrings. And you can see with Ki, it goes all the way to the floor, and most of you will look more like me. Okay, and then let's release from there and rock a little bit with the knees. So just whatever that last pose was, you always want to just clean it up afterwards and then refresh for the next pose. The next pose is going to be a neck stretch, and so we did hair earlier. And now this one is, the legs come up, it comes out of plow, but we're not going to do plow now. So the legs come up and over, the hips come up, the knees come up, and then the knees drop. The knees drop down towards the temples of the head. And possibly the feet are down, or possibly the feet are up, likely down if your low back's loose enough. And then the knees come down by the ears, and you press your arms down, or if the weight is already there, you just rest like Ki is, or here's the pressing down. You just take your hands behind you, press in a little bit so the knees come down right next to the ears. Okay, and then let's come out of there, and any small movements that feel good. It's a back stretch of that last position as well as a neck stretch. And so as you move around, let's rock to a seated position. And we're going to do tortoise. So the tortoise is a widespread leg angle, and from the widespread leg angle, you'll bend your knees, and then you're going to take one arm through towards the back so it feeds through, and then the other one feeds through, and possibly it's just like that, where you lay over, and so you look like a tortoise shell. The shape of the back is like a tortoise shell, and the legs are like the flippers. And so then you could hook like Ki does. If your low back and hamstrings are loose enough, you'll end up hooking behind, or you're just resting like this. Okay, and then we'll come out of this tortoise position.
And once you do, make sure that the back is feeling all right about it, because we've been working with the support of the floor into some flex trunk positions. In this way, we've been stretching through the back, and ideally it feels tremendously beneficial. But if in any way it's not feeling quite right, then I want you to watch yourself and slow down as we come into this next. Bending your left knee, work that left heel in towards the chest. And just feel what that's like initially. Then release from there and start to take the variation on the other side. Drawing the right knee into the chest, opening right knee to the right, right hand on right foot, preparing the way for taking that foot behind the head. So in that same way, as I just changed my directions for you, you'll be able to see how it is that will work. Now I'm going to take my right leg in first, right knee down to the ground. That's already good work. Right elbow could come to the inside of the right knee. That's also already good work. Over time, we develop with that right knee behind the right shoulder, or the right foot behind the head. And breathing as you're reaching through. Over time, that left leg might also straighten out, and when you're comfortably bound here, you could release that right hand to help you to secure and to stay balanced on both sides of the pelvis. And one more breath. As you release, we'll start to take it to your second side. In doing so, left hand to the left foot, drawing left knee down to the ground. And again, taking it at your own pace. That's already good work. From here, developing the left elbow in front of that left knee, so I'm pressing open ever more completely. And just taking it to the level that you're able to work and still breathe. Over time, that left knee will come behind the left shoulder. Maybe the foot can come behind the head, and with it you could use your left hand to help to direct and steer the pelvis so it stays well planted and grounded. And one more breath here. Now when you release from the posture, you can hug both knees into the chest with those knees opening to the sides a bit, and consider what it might be like to use both elbows to the inside of the knees. Over time, both shoulders to the inside of the knees, and maybe both feet behind the head, securing the feet at the ankles, crossing them over. When you're able to balance there, the hands can come into a prayer position. And in this way, the yogi is perhaps praying for sleep, rather using the legs like a pillow for the head. One more breath. When we release from the posture, we'll come on back out. And in doing so, allow the feet to come to the ground, a broad hip distance apart. Now I want us to come into the low back to make sure all is well from our challenging positions here on our back. In doing so, take your two knees over to the right in the deer posture, then come up through center and take them to the left. Going back and forth just a couple of times, making sure that the low back feels good in either direction. And one more time like that. Now with it, allow both knees to drape open to the right and keep them there. In this way, you could stay exactly as you are, getting a nice stretch sensation across the front of the left hip, and maybe a little bit in that left low back. If you want to deepen the work, then as you can see Bob has, you can cross your right heel over that left knee, pressing your right knee down to the ground, stretching as we do more completely through the front of the left hip. And one more breath. Make sure that feels okay in the knees. As you release, come on back up through center, and with those feet broader apart than a mat distance, again, allow yourself to, I like to say, windshield wipe the knees back and forth, making sure that all is well here. And that the low back feels okay with that little bit of rotation. As such, take your two knees over to the left, and in doing so, feeling the stretch across the front of the right hip, and a little bit in the right low back. From here, as you're able, you might pick it up with the left heel, crossing it over the right knee as Bob has. And with that left knee coming down to the ground, lengthening and opening through the front of that right hip a little bit more. Releasing in our deer posture. And one more breath. As you release, come back up through center and take the feet soles together. Open your knees to the side in your recline bound angle. You can reach the arms up and overhead, and hands can clasp the elbows. You're doing so resting back in this passive way, opening through the front body, feeling the way that the chest is opened and the armpits, as well as the low belly and the hips. And one more breath here. Then as you're able, we'll start to stretch the legs out, lying back into the corpse position of Shavasana. Palms are upward facing, and we're breathing as we're resting back, allowing yourself to let go of tension in the body and feel it being replaced with a kind of energy that's peaceful and focused. Developing more completely in this way to cultivate our energy body. We'll be shifting in just a moment into pranayama as Bob decides.
Move a little bit, and we're going to come to a seated position. Bring the knees in, and either sit onto the heels of the feet or sit cross-legged, which we'll be showing. It's be about 3 minutes of Ujjayi breathing. It's the full yogic breath. In Ujjayi breathing, as you exhale, maintain the length of spine. So that's an exhale from the bottom up to support the diaphragm that's passively going up on the exhale. On the inhale, the belly goes out for the first part of the inhale, but then it flattens as you bring the air up into the ribs and the chest and the armpit, into the middle and upper lung area. So that's the Ujjayi inhale and exhale. We'll be retaining after inhale. Let's try this for a couple minutes. Exhale slowly. Inhale. Base of the tongue is back, jaws are relaxed. You inhale up through. Hold the air in for a few seconds. Note the length of spine you've gained. As you exhale, exhale from the bottom up. Maintain the length of spine. Base of the tongue is back. You hear the same sound as when you exhale as when you inhale. Inhale about 8 seconds. Ujjayi inhale. Belly out for the first part of it. Then it flattens as you come up. That same sound through the back of the throat. Hold the air in for a little longer. Exhale from the bottom. The belly muscles, the low rib cage muscles, you push in or squeeze in. Diaphragm is going up, pushing the air out. Inhale. Feel from the bottom. Base of the tongue is back in the throat. Jaws are relaxed. The last half of the inhale, belly flattens to expand the chest. Bring the energy up through the neck, the throat chakra. Hold the air in. Pause in the third eye area with your attention. Now, as you exhale from the bottom, exhale, maintain length of spine, abdominal muscles back. Intercostals in the lower ribs squeeze. You push the air out slowly. Ujjayi exhale. Twice more. Inhale from the bottom to the top. Hold the air in. Now bring the attention to the crown of the head, the Sahasrara chakra. Maintain some attention there as you exhale, and you'll watch the exhale happen. And one more time with that inhale and exhale. Inhale, Ujjayi, inhale. Hold energy at the top of the head. Open the top of the head. And then exhale. Now start to ground it down a little bit. Just move. You could open your eyes and move a little bit with your torso. And then take the hands, palm down, ground it. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.